Hello, everyone. Andy Goldberg here, and welcome to the Founders Chair podcast. Very pleased to have on the call today David Harris from Craigton Packaging. David, welcome to the Founders Chair.
Hi, Andy. How are you?
Great, thanks. Really excited to have you on the program today. Why don't we just start, David, by just telling us a little bit about you personally, where you're from, where you live now, family.
Yeah, so I was born in Glasgow. I now live in Edinburgh, but travelled a bit around in between time. Grew up in Tasmania, Hobart, Tasmania, for about 8 years when I was age 6 to age 14. So that was an interesting place to grow up. Great fun, great country. You have to go and visit it, everybody, because it's utterly superb. So, yeah, well, I guess we were originally 10-pound poms, as they're known as back in those days. So, both my parents were dentists and decided on a new life over there. So, that's where we went. Then I came back, age 14, finished my schooling in Edinburgh and went to university in Edinburgh, then did a master's at Manchester, University of Manchester, and then went into industry. So I worked in the steel industry, then I worked for BP. And I guess, when you're a young man, you think, oh, what do I want to do? And I knew working in the steel industry and, in BP, and you went to all these smelly, horrible towns to work and live. And I thought, I don't want to do that. What will I do? Oh, yeah, I know. I'll join the whiskey industry. So when you're young, you just go and do it, don't you? So I applied for a couple of jobs, got one, and that's been me ever since. So I guess 35 years in the whiskey industry in bottling. So probably one of the longest serving whiskey bottlers in the industry. Um, and people think you're mad staying in bottling because it is definitely the toughest part, bringing everything together and trying to make it look like what the customer wants, and of course it has to be done as cheaply as possible and la di da di da. So yeah, it's
Okay.
the sharp end of the business of the industry,
Yeah.
and I've been doing it for 35 years. So yeah,
Okay, so I'm going to want to hear more about the company and the bottling and the whiskey in a minute. Just at the start of so you went and got a job 35 years ago working for
yeah,
somebody else. At
yeah.
what point did you decide that it was time to go into business for yourself?
Oh well, I worked. It was only just recently I went into business, so right at the end of my career, I had a very good career. Worked, started with a small company called William Muir Bod 9, which was based in Leith. And that was taken over by White Mackay. So I ended up running one of the bottling plants for White Mackay back in the 90s at the Grangemouth plant, which is now their only bottling plant. And that's changed somewhat in the intervening years, but it was a big, very well run, very efficient bottling plant in Grangemouth now. Then Jim Beam Brands, American company, uh, took over White Mackay. So I was working with Beam for a while, still in bottling, and I ended up running bottling operations in Europe and India, um,
Mhm.
which Beam in those days called Greater Europe. So India was part of Europe as far as Beam was concerned, but
Well,
it was
Americans don't know world geography, so
no, they've got three regions. Three regions. That's it. America, Europe, and Asia Pacific, haven't they? So that's it. So
yeah.
Europe, Africa, India, we're all part of Europe. So which was great because that meant I had quite a wide remit, did quite a lot of traveling, um, throughout Europe and India, what have you. So did that for a while, and then I was asked to go and run Broxburn bottlers in West Lothian, so which was a fairly small bottling operation owned by two of the whiskey. Um, well, they're now big concerns in the industry. They were a bit smaller in those days. So, and over 15 years, I grew it from 4 or 5 million bottles a year up to 64 million bottles a year when I finished there. So it became a big hungry machine, and so that was very enjoyable, very tough job. 400 people working there at times. So big job. So yeah, that all these things come to an end. So I did a bit of work with a company in Fife for a couple of years. When there as a director, and then the opportunity to buy Craigton came up in 2022. So really only been the owner of Craigton for the last 30 months. So yeah, that's when my owning my own business started. So quite late on in life, but still
Never too late.
nonetheless,
And
yeah.
what made you think you had the confidence to own a business yourself?
Well, I always knew I had the confidence that, I mean, I'm probably one of the most experienced bottlers in the industry, probably the most experienced, subcontract bottlers. There's bottlers in the big companies, Diageo, Willie Grant's, what have you, maybe been in the industry for as long as I have, but they're bottling their own products, whereas at Broxburn, where have you, you're bottling everybody else's products. So you have, 40, 50, 60 customers to deal with, and they're all,
Mm.
they're all have their own brands and what have you. So I always knew I could do it. I've been doing it longer than anybody. I've been doing it at a larger scale than anybody. So it was just a matter of transferring that over. So, and I mean, I was looking at do I do I carry on or do I retire and then I realized I don't want to retire, but I also realized I was fed up working for other people because the older you get, I guess the less employable you get.
Yeah, so you weren't going to make a good employee for much longer, so you better become an
Well,
employer.
yes, that was probably getting more difficult, let's just say.
Sure. I mean, but surely owning a business has got to have different, maybe challenges that you're not accustomed to working in a more corporate environment.
Yeah, I mean there are different pressures. You you're much more conscious of the cash that you're much more conscious of. It's your business. You've got to, it's your reputation. You got to make it work. I'm not saying that pressure didn't apply previously, but not to that sort of same degree.
Mm.
I mean, I'm running Broxford. I could never switch off because you're always on call. But in theory, you could if you wanted to. In theory, you could just say, "I'm turning off the phone," but you don't. But whereas owning your own business, you can never turn off the phone. You can't even think
Right.
about turning off the phone. So I guess that's the difference.
Sure.
It's yours, and you need to make it. You need to make it work.
So tell us a little more about your company now, where you're based, what
So this is
you
a company's called Craigton Packaging. It's called, but we'll be changing that name because it's not really a packaging company. It's a bit of a misnomer. So Craigton's based in Paisley. So a lot of changes since I've taken over the last 30 months. It needed a lot of changes. Certainly needed freshened up and run a bit more professionally, shall we say. So we've taken on the whole site that we're on. So we've got 54,000 square feet of warehousing split into 9 different warehouses. We store lots of casks, probably got about 7 or 8,000 casks in at the moment, both for long term, well, some for maturation, long term storage, some for short term storage going to bottling. Um, so yeah, a lot of cask storage, a lot of preparing whiskey for bottling in many different ways. So you might take whiskey out of one cask, put it into a different cask, get a finish. You'll have seen the
Mhm.
cask finishes on whiskey, sherry cask finish or Madeira cask finish or something like that. So we do all that kind of operation. We do sampling of whiskey, we do blending of whiskey, we take bulk loads of whiskey tankers and fill casks of new make spirit. So spirit that's just come off the still. We've got quite a few tankers of whiskey coming in from Isla at the moment. 8 tankers actually coming in from Isla for a customer. So we're filling these. That's what you can hear perhaps in the background. People hammering casks, hammering the
Yeah.
bungs as we call them, which are the stoppers, hammering them into the casks as they fill them. So and they'll go into the warehouse for a minimum of 3 years because it can't gold whiskey until it's 3 years old, having aged in oak in Scotland. So we're going for a minimum of 3 years, and much of it, most of it, I would think, stay a lot longer in cask and warehouse till such time as it's ready to be bottled one way or another.
And I'm a little bit distracted by your cabinet behind you. I've just made you on my
Sorry.
screen so I can see what you've got there, and
Yeah, there's
maybe art. I don't know
a
what I'm seeing.
variety of bottles and things that have been bottled over the years, I guess, here, different shapes and sizes. So we're very much, a specialist bottler. We can do high volume bottling, of standard tall round, RPP it's called. So that's your standard blended whiskey, if you like. And we also do very, very high value, small runs in decanters and what have you. Some of the bottles we're bottling are selling for 30, 40, 50,000 pounds per bottle. So some very rare and unique whiskies are bottled here, and basically everything in between. So bottling from miniatures, 5 cls, and little bottles down the bottom, all the way up to, yeah, we can fill any size, but usually 7 cls, 1 liters, 1.5 liters, so 2 liters jugs as well. So yeah, we can do everything. So Craigton, since I've taken over, changed the proposition a bit, expanded it out. And, we're really offering a one-stop shop here, if you like, an end-to-end. I hate the term one-stop shop. Edit that out. Sorry, an end-to-end offering where we'll take in, materials, empty bottles, corks, labels, cardboard, what have you, store that. Take in the customers, the owners, casks or whiskey in bulk or what have you, store that, prepare that, and then bottle it, then store the finished cased goods, and then we'll ship that all over the world, anywhere in the world. So, a lot going to the Far East, America, even Australia, New Zealand, everywhere in between. So yeah, what we're producing here is going all around the world.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You
Cool
got to watch.
industry. Now you can see why I wanted to get into the industry.
I mean, it's a dream industry, isn't it? For
Yeah, yeah.
somebody like me who enjoys good whiskey, like that would be, it would just be play. It would just be fun, wouldn't it? I'm sure it's hard
Well,
work.
it is fun. You're dealing with very a very iconic product, an interesting product. And, whiskey is different.
Yeah.
Old whiskey to casks are different from cask to cask. They might be the same product. They might be in the same warehouse for the same length of time, but they're different. So so from that point of view, it's interesting. And I'm a chemist, studied chemistry degree and master's level, so I've got a sort of technical interest in it as well, if you
Mm.
like. So I do use that from time to time, and I don't suppose there's many guys that are my age, in their 60s, that are still using their technical knowledge from their university
Still
degree
using their high
somewhere.
school chemistry.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Because
They're
when
not.
you're studying chemistry in high school, you're like, when am I going to need to know any of this? And like here
Yeah,
you are.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I don't want to know any of this. More like it. So,
Um, I see. Yeah, you should have paid more attention in school, kids. In chemistry class.
yeah,
And then you too could be in whiskey. Um, so let's just go back to the entrepreneurial side of the story then a little bit. Has there, when you made the shift from working for somebody else in the corporate world to owning your own business, were there people or role models or anybody that inspired you or pushed you, or you have to, even if you just have their voice in the back of your head as you're working and thinking, how would they have handled this situation?
yeah. You always think about how people have done this, guys that you've come across, or people, sorry, women, men, that you've come across in your life in terms of business and sport and life in general. And yeah, so you always think, how would they do it? And I'm very lucky. I've met a lot of superb people along the way. From great sports people to great business people. So you work in companies like Beam and what have you. You meet some unbelievably brilliant people, and so you've got to be a sponge. You've got to take it all in, and
Mm.
sometimes you'll be without knowing it, you'll be using ideas and things you've learned, and you're getting inspiration from people that you don't actually realize that you that's somebody's taught you that. So it's just
Yeah.
you try and absorb it all and use the bits that are appropriate at the time.
What
That's
would you
really what I do. So
say?
I wouldn't say any one person has particularly inspired me as such.
Yeah. So, but you've had an environment of smart, experienced people around you.
Yeah, both
You've
from
soaked it in.
sporting excellence, rugby. Rugby is my game I used to play, and I grew up with a lot of brilliant rugby players. I mean, I wasn't a brilliant rugby player, but I was surrounded by brilliant rugby players, and you meet other guys, people like Chris Hoy. I've met him several times. There's an inspirational person, particularly going through what he's
Mm.
going through. Even before that, he was an inspirational person. So, there's people like that who are just great, and you think, wow, you're
Yeah.
impressed. Yeah, well, that's how it is. You get impressed by people, and because they are just great.
Yeah. So, what would you say has been? So, you can't pinpoint one person. Could you pinpoint one learning that we'd say has been your biggest learning as a business owner?
Yeah, well, not as a business owner, just in business. You got to. I've always whiskey industry is quite unique. I mean, whiskey is the reason Scotch whiskey. Well, one of the reasons Scotch whiskey is so highly regarded is because the industry really closed ranks and made sure that the product was looked after, the heritage of the product was proper, everything was traceable. So if you're buying a bottle of Scotch whiskey in wherever you are, and it's not an obvious counterfeit, you're getting a genuinely good product, and people got trust in that. So the whiskey, Scotch whiskey, as a brand, if you like, the macro brand became a trusted brand, and that was a big learning to me because you look at other spirits which don't have that. They don't have that heritage and that provenance, if you like, and that trustworthiness in them. Some of them are starting to get it, but Scotch has had that, and that taught me, it's very important to have that integrity. You must have integrity. I've done a lot for people over the 35 years, and now that I've got my own business, some of that's coming back. So you treat people well, you look after them, you do it properly for them, you know you help them, and eventually it comes back to you. There were times when going through, I thought, "Ah, why doesn't anybody help me?" But now people are, so which is good.
Yeah, we call it the law of procession, and the more you put out there, and the better your reputation as somebody with integrity, the more it's going to come back to you. But it may not come back to you from the place you gave out, right? Like
Sure, that's right. Yeah.
you're giving out over there, it's going to come back to you, but it might come back to you from the universe this direction.
Well, I had a conversation, 2 hours ago with a guy who phoned me. He contacted me on LinkedIn, said, "Can I have a phone call?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So we had a chat, and then he wants to do quite a lot of work with us now, and I'd never heard of him before, never met him, but he spoke to somebody who spoke to somebody who said, "Go to me." So, and that's you're right,
Yeah.
absolutely it does come that way. So yeah, so it's very
Well,
important.
in the relatively short time you've owned your own business, what would
Yeah.
you say has been your biggest challenge, and how
Well, the
have you?
business really needed root and branch surgery. I knew it wasn't well run, but I didn't realize. Yeah, I'm used to working in operations which are got systems, procedures, in place and what have you, and really there wasn't a lot of that here. So it had to be stripped all the way back to basics. and rebuilt, if you like. So we've spent the last couple of years doing that. You know, got a very good team in place now, which has taken a bit of time. Um,
Mhm.
and that's the important thing. Get good people. One of the learnings, I guess, is get a good team, a team you can trust, the team that's reliable, and want to do the job, and they want to be part of a team and part of a company. So Craigton is a team now, and it feels like a team, and our customers feel it feels like a team. So, but that takes time. You can't just wave a magic wand and say, right, you're now this. So, that's been a big journey, if you like.
Yeah, I guess it's one thing to just hire good people, which is really important and
Yeah,
not easy to do, but then create a culture in the
yeah,
organization, right?
yeah.
Because not everybody's going to love each other. Not everybody, not
Oh no,
everybody's
no,
the
they
same.
certainly don't.
But,
They
but
certainly don't. But it's culture based on excellence, based on integrity, based on customer facing, but also with you know, I'm demanding, but I'm not overbearingly demanding. I set standards, and the standard is this, and I don't want the standard to slip below the standard. So, we've got to look after our customers, but we've also got to look after the business. So they can't say, well, I was doing that because the customer wanted it. Well, how does that impact the business? You've just cost this, or it's in the business. So it's a more, I want people to think much more holistically, business focused, but customer focused and excellence focused at the same time. And that's what you have to be, business. That's what successful businesses are. So it's all those things.
successful business is a group of people working together as a team.
Yeah, that's it.
You happen to have a product or a service that you deliver, but really it's the company is the team, right? And the team
Yeah,
is the leader.
yeah, yeah,
The team is a reflection of its leadership, isn't it? So you're
yeah.
ultimately they're your fault.
Yes, absolutely. It's
um,
all my fault. They're
so
not.
what's the next big thing for you in your business, David? What do the next 1 to 3 years look like in terms of
Well,
opportunities?
the industry is going through a quiet spell at the moment. So, it's had 35 years in the industry. I have to say, the first 10 years of everybody talked about the whiskey cycle. I did eventually end up saying to somebody, my boss at the time, after 10 years, I said, see this whiskey cycle? Where is the up bit? Well, shortly thereafter, the up bit came. And, whiskey's had a phenomenal period for, a number of years. And now because of all the global happenings, there's a lot happening around the world, as we know, and that's impacting everybody and everything. And whiskey is a bit of a luxury, so that's having so it's a quietish time. But there's always opportunities in that time. You find out a lot about the people in your business when it's like this, and so it's really where are the opportunities for growth? So we've looked at a couple of different areas which we're going into now. With taking in tankers and all that kind of thing. That's proving good. So yeah, we're going along, and then it will come back. It's really preparing ourselves for that, getting our ducks in a row, as you would say, and getting ready for the next
Yeah.
period of growth and being very very good at it. So yeah, so a lot of preparation for the future, a lot of organizing, tidying up, keeping the business running. We still do okay as a business, and then expand and we could expand in many ways. We could take on more warehousing, store more casks and things. So there's lots of different opportunities for us, and it's really just in business you've got to see what the opportunities are and be able to react. So you've got to be nimble, and I've always felt I'm nimble and can react to opportunities. Some opportunities you can make happen and be ahead of the curve and do that, but whiskey is quite excuse the pun, a mature industry. So,
Very
unless
good.
you're inventing the next super drink, which, somebody will, but they're probably going to
Yeah.
be much younger than me. Um, you know, it's keep the business uh, improving daily and just expand the things we're good at.
Sure.
That's what we'll do. So take on more customers, more warehousing, what have you.
It's great. My final question for you, David, you'll be pleased to know, is what advice would you have for business owners who are just starting out on their own or who are thinking about starting out on their own?
Um, listen, you got to be prepared to. It's got to be tougher than you think. You got to be prepared for that. But no problems are insurmountable. So you've got to stay positive and work your way through things. Things happen. Things will happen, and things. It's like the old known unknowns, unknown unknowns, and what have you. There's going to be unknown unknowns, and they're going to come at you, and you've got to deal with them, and you can't just chuck it. You can't just pack it in and say this is too difficult. So, it tests you. It tests your mettle, and but you've got to stick with it. Count the cash. Keep keep the
Good,
cash under
good
control.
cash flow management.
Yeah, there has to be, and that's one of the difficulties at the moment. A lot of people are struggling, so a lot of our customers are finding it hard to pay us, and that all knocks on down the chain. So it's really keeping on top of that all the time. I think that's from what I'm hearing from everybody in the industry, that is a big problem at the moment. That people are just holding on to that cash a little bit longer, and that just knocks on down the line. So yeah, keep control of the cash, keep positive, keep fighting through, and work hard. You'll make it. Make it.
You got to have self-belief though, right? If you
You
believe you'll
do,
make it, you'll make it.
yeah. And you also got to be able to, if you try things and you know you say, right, let's give that a go, and it's not working or it's not good. You've got to have the confidence to just pull the plug and say, right, that's not working, and move on. Some people will stick at things for too long
Yeah.
and just say, I'm going to make this. Sometimes you've got to step back, reflect, and go, actually, yeah. And it doesn't matter having a bad idea. Bad ideas, good ideas, they all come together. Hopefully you can settle on the good ideas. If you don't have ideas, that's when you got a problem.
I mean, it's been hammered into our heads for so long, not just as children, but as adults, never quit. But
Yeah,
sometimes there's a time to quit, right?
yeah. No,
Time to
certain
quit and then
parts
go
of
do
it.
something else.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um,
That's right.
and make decisions quickly, I think,
Yeah,
decide when you're going to quit,
yeah.
decide.
Be decisive. You've got to be decisive.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, David Harris from Craigton Packaging, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, and Andy. Pleasure.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Some real learnings from today, and an amazing industry. It was hard to focus with some lovely bottles of whiskey behind you, but there you go, the kid in
Yeah.
the candy shop, really. Uh, and thanks to all our listeners, as always, for following us on Founders Chair podcast. And we will see you all again very soon. Thanks again, David.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye bye.